Hello and thank you for clicking on my channel. My name is A and this is the Real Movie Podcast, and today I have a stacked episode, a really good episode, and in this one I'm going to introduce you to 10 perfectly casted sitcom actors of all time. Before I begin, I have to point out a few things. First of all, just stay tuned because you're not going to get bored from this podcast. This is going to be really good. The other thing that I have to tell you is that it was a really difficult job for me to categorize these actors because I love them so much. So I might say a name after the other, but they are just perfectly casted. And finally, I'm gonna do a watch mojo on this, and if you stay till the end of the podcast, I'm gonna introduce you to a bonus perfectly casted actor of all time. And yeah, let's begin. Number 1, we have Nick Offerman as Ron Swanson in Parks and Recreation. I recently introduced this TV show to you, so if you haven't checked that out, please check that out. It is amongst one of the 3 TV shows that you should not miss, and it is really under the radar. So Parks and Recreation, as great as this TV show is, Ron Swanson is one of those characters that it is worth it to watch the whole TV show just because of him. He is so perfectly casted. He is extremely funny. I have no idea who cast him, but whoever it was should get an Oscar for this casting. He is just great in this role. Then we have Andre Braugher as Captain Raymond Holt in Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Okay, Brooklyn Nine-Nine is not one of my favorite TV shows, although it is a hit in America, but I really didn't like it. I don't know why, but it was not my cup of tea. But maybe I can say there is only one reason that I stayed the whole time and I watched the whole TV show, and that reason is called Captain Raymond Holt. Captain Holt plays a serious and no bull crap captain who is homosexual, who is also black, played by the great Andre Braugher. The first episode, actually, when I was watching the TV show, I was a bit worried because they could have gone in a totally stereotypical and just over the top and crappy way, but they did a perfect job at introducing this character, and Andre Braugher did a great job at performing this role. Everything about him was great. Watching him as Captain Holt was really educational, both politically educational and in acting levels. Andre Braugher just did a great job as Captain Holt. Next we have Rainn Wilson as Dwight. The TV show Office has 9 seasons, and the first 7 seasons, spoiler alert if you haven't watched The Office, first 7 seasons we have Steve Carell, who is just one of the funniest actors ever, and in this final 2 seasons the whole comedy is Rainn Wilson. I mean, if it wasn't for Rainn Wilson, I would just drop the show. In the previous seasons, even when Steve Carell was still on the show, Dwight was one of the funniest characters in a TV show ever. Even though he plays a kiss-ass, pain-in-the-butt employee and colleague in the office, he is one of the loveliest characters on a TV show ever. Next spot goes to Matthew Perry as Chandler Bing, Friends. Okay, so the TV show Friends is still one of the best TV shows of all time. It is just a global phenomenon. Everyone still watches it after like the first episode aired like 1994. It's like 26 years ago. It is still one of the most relatable and lovely TV shows ever. I believe it was superbly difficult to cast Chandler because he tells jokes all the time. I really believe it was a really hard job for them, but they did it anyway. And Matthew Perry is my favorite character in Friends. I mean, he is literally my favorite character. In the girls I have Phoebe, but in the boys he is just perfect. In the next spot we have Jim Parsons as Sheldon Cooper, The Big Bang Theory. Okay, what to tell about The Big Bang Theory? Big Bang Theory was one of the biggest TV shows ever. Unfortunately, I dropped the show at like season 7, season 8. When all of them got married, I still stand by my words. When all of them got married and they got boyfriends, the show started being less and less relatable, at least for me. But yeah, Sheldon Cooper remains one of the funniest characters ever. Of course, in the list I'm talking about, no one can replace these actors. That's why they are perfectly casted, because no one can replace them. Jim Parsons does a fantastic job as a pain in the ass roommate, the worst roommate ever, the worst friend ever, doesn't get sarcasm. I mean, when the show was pitched and they were looking for someone to play Sheldon Cooper, I really don't know how they casted it, and I don't know how the role was written, because it is really not good. It is really painful to watch someone like Sheldon Cooper, but Jim Parsons does a great job, and he is one of my favorite characters of all time. Next one, we have Michael Richards as Kramer, Seinfeld. In the episode that I dropped recently, I talked about how great Seinfeld is, and if you didn't watch it, please do, because it is just timeless and it's really great. Still, after 30 years, like 40 years, it is superbly relatable. And one of the funniest parts of this TV show is the noisy, loud neighbor played by Michael Richards, who is called Kramer. He doesn't have any boundaries, he just comes in. He is so iconic that even the way he opens the door is iconic, it remains iconic still. The way he talks, his clothes, everything about Kramer is just the funniest thing ever. Then we have Larry David as Larry David in Curb Your Enthusiasm. Curb Your Enthusiasm is a funny show because it is, of course, it is a really funny show, but the funny story about it is that the first season aired in 2000, so it's like 22 years ago, but it wasn't consistent. There were a few cancels, there were a few gaps, etc. But anyways, the plot of the show is that Larry David plays a fictional character of himself. It's like a biography, but it's fictional. There's a name actually for this genre. I don't remember the name, but anyways, this tells the interactions between him and the friends, the Hollywood, the writers, the actors. We have so many cameos on the show too. We have Jerry Seinfeld, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and Jason Alexander, and yeah, etc. And yeah, Larry David does a perfect job at playing himself. Don't miss that. Next spot goes to Neil Patrick Harris as Barney Stinson. The show is called How I Met Your Mother. I remember when I was in high school, there was a huge debate with How I Met Your Mother or Friends. People was arguing about which TV show is better, How I Met Your Mother or Friends. Actually, it didn't matter to me. I liked Friends more. I sometimes like How I Met Your Mother more, but it really depends on which one did you see first. But the star of How I Met Your Mother is without a doubt Barney Stinson. Barney Stinson is a complete womanizer in the TV show, although NPH is a gay man in real life. But anyways, he does a great job in every single scene he is in, which is almost every scene. He is a combination of physical comedy, sarcasm, storytelling, tone, everything about the acting, the performing, the execution. The storyline, I'm a bit not okay with that, but everything about Neil Patrick Harris is great. Then we have one of my favorites, Charlie Day as Charlie Kelly. It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I recently talked about this TV show, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, and I introduced you to some of its characters. They own a bar and such, etc. But Charlie in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is the loveliest character you will ever meet in any TV show. I mean, he is so stupid. He is so goddamn stupid, and he is dangerous, and he is funny, and he is just... Let me just tell you something. He is in his 40s, and even when he was in 30s, he shared the bed with an old man for like 10 years, and that is one of his main features. If you want to have your brain go somewhere to not to think, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, like Seinfeld, is your show. Next spot goes to Jason Alexander as George Costanza, Seinfeld. Seinfeld is a really rich TV show. The creators of this show, Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, were great comedians, were great writers, and they were really bold, both of them. And that's why we have so many still relatable subjects and so many great performances in this TV show. A lot of the credits of acting goes to Jason Alexander. he is, as far as human beings are concerned, he is the worst person in the world. George in Seinfeld does so many bad things that I cannot name one by one, because that will be an episode, a 20 minutes episode at least, with hundreds and hundreds of things that he did. But Jason Alexander does such a great job at this, at playing George, that you love him. You end up loving him. The show Seinfeld is a really clever and smart show. To name some of the bad things that Jason Alexander does, for example, he postpones his wedding until his wife dies, his fiancée dies. It is just one of them. But Jason Alexander does everything in a way that you end up loving this character. If I cannot say he's perfectly casted, then what is it? Because we all have a friend that we know he or she is such a bad person, but we still love him and we still care for him and we still have him or her as a friend. Thank you for remaining until the end of the podcast, and here's your bonus. The final spot goes to Steve Carell as Michael Scott, The Office. This list was really difficult for me to make, because there are so many other actors to mention. For example, Ty Burrell in Modern Family, he's perfectly casted as well. But of course I might be a bit biased about this show, but I cannot not say the name of Michael Scott. Steve Carell does such a good job in this TV show. Actually, let me just tell you something. If you haven't watched The Office, or if you watched The Office and you want to rewatch, just there's an episode that I say, and go watch it now. It doesn't matter if you haven't watched this show or if you have. It's called Dinner Party. You will know why I'm mentioning Steve Carell as Michael Scott. And yeah, that was my podcast. Oh, it turned out to be a really long podcast, maybe the longest podcast that I ever shared. But yeah, that's it. That's my opinion. Tell me who's your favorite. I will do another episode about actresses as well. I wanted to do all in one podcast, in one episode, but I think it wouldn't be fair, because I love them as well. As much as I love these guys, I love them too, and they are as great as these guys are. Thank you for listening to my voice. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and introduce me to your friends. And yeah, that's it. Thanks.